Welcome. This is Kristen Crabtree with Lance Edwards Group. We have a special treat today. We're interviewing a new apartment champion who is here to share her story about how she closed her first and many family deals after that since getting started with Lance's system. She also happens to be one of our coaches. Please help me welcome Hoku.
Thank you, Kristen. It's so great to be here. I'm always excited to talk about apartments.
Fantastic. Okay, so as I usually do, I'm going to go through just sort of the facts because Hoku has been doing this for 8 years. We're going to talk through these facts just about her most recent transaction. Asking her to go back 8 years, that's a lot. So the last one was 9 units. When she first started investing in apartments, she did not have real estate investment experience, but obviously she does now. She tends to do the rehab and hold strategy. The last one that she invested in was in Indianapolis, Indiana, and she's located somewhere in Hawaii.
That's right.
We found this deal, or she liked the deal because it was in bad shape and a cash cow, put zero of her own money into the deal. All of the financing was arranged with her business partners. The property did need work. And so far, they have doubled the building value since purchasing it. So does that sound like a good recap?
That is just about right. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay, great. So before we get started, Hoku, can you share with me a little about your personal and professional background?
Sure. Actually, I've run several businesses before I started real estate investment. I was a bit of an entrepreneur, so I decided to retire when I was in my 20s and work for myself. So I've been doing several different ventures. And when I met my husband, he was a retired contractor. So he'd done residential and commercial building construction. And we looked at each other and said, why the heck are we not flipping houses? So we actually started with a zero experience. I had never even bought or sold a single family home before. I was also living on a piece of land with my husband in a tent at the time. And he had some property in Hawaii. So we were trying out the off-grid living in quite an unusual way. It was fabulous for a time. But we looked at each other and said, why are we not flipping houses? And we invested in real estate education. And that's what started our journey. And that's how I eventually met Lance.
Great. So let's go ahead and talk just briefly about the fact that you're a coach. So do you want to share anything about that?
I love being a coach. I mean, coaching is really what I am here for. And it's so funny because I took a personality test about 6 months ago and it said, you should be a coach. So I said, I think I found my calling. I love being able to go through the grind of learning how to run a real estate business in the beginning, all the kicks and starts and challenges that come along with that, and then turn around and be able to coach people through it. Just be able to give them that next step, because what I'm about is really just being able to help people level up to the next level that they're capable and looking forward to creating. And me seeing that is just as good as me doubling the value on a house.
So how long ago did you become a coach for Lance?
I've been a coach of Lance for 7 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. So quite some time.
Yes.
Okay. So going back to you guys in the tent and looking at flipping houses, I think you said starting with single family residents. So how many of those did you do? What got you into looking at multifamily investing?
So we did, oh my gosh, how many did we do in those days? We did quite a number of small single family homes here in Oahu. The number is escaping me at the time, but we started investing here where property values are incredibly high. So even looking at a knockdown property, you're looking at $750,000 to pick up the property. So that was the first hurdle, was getting into finding financing for those kinds of deals. From there, it was not that difficult to get financing for small apartments because there's more doors, there's rentals, there's income to the property already. So financing is more available for those. So we started in the single family rehabbing business. We did that across the country. Indiana, Colorado. I actually did look to do it internationally for a time, but decided against it at the moment. So it's sticking to the US. But we've done also properties in Hawaii. And not that much longer after, Lance came to Hawaii and decided to present to my RIA association. So he came in, did a presentation that I heard about through them, and went to his initial introduction. And basically, he said something that stuck with me to this day that I completely agree with, which is if you can have one roof and more doors, why wouldn't you? And I just thought, that is absolutely brilliant. I'm coming to his training. And I just hopped on a plane and went to the next available boot camp in San Francisco. And from there, I came with deals already. I already knew how to do marketing. So I came in, I brought a couple deals to boot camp, and I said, how do I respond to these letters I just sent out? So I didn't know what I was doing. I just followed his instructions from the initial kickoff. So that was really fun. And that's how I just immediately dove, after only about a year in flipping single family homes, I actually dove right into multifamily. And we picked up within that year a triplex, we picked up a fourplex, we picked up a 9-unit building, and we just kind of been building from there.
That's awesome. And it sounds like you started really young, 20s, I think you said, is that right?
I'm trying to think about that. I wasn't in my 20s 7 years ago. I'd like to say I was, but I was actually in my early 30s when I got started. So, some people would consider that young. A lot of people don't start until they're heading towards retirement. So, yeah. And
you could pull off being, 7 years past your 20s. So, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. So back when you were living in the tent, what were you trying to solve through real estate investing?
Oh, I was trying to solve a lot of things. Working for myself was one of the main things. I just wanted to be lucrative working for myself. Running a business and being lucrative are two separate things. And I didn't realize that when I got into business for myself. So I just said, I'm tired of not making money. And that's, I'm, breaking even or making very small profit margins for a heck of a lot of work. And I just said, I don't want to do it. I need a solution. And I also need a retirement package, because when I work for myself, there's no 401k unless you create your own, so real estate investment is my 401k. I'm solving working for myself and retirement at the same time.
So what was your financial situation like before you started investing?
It was in the, let me say it politely, sub-zero temperatures. I was in a very bad position financially, actually. I decided I didn't want to continue working the business I did. So I had savings and I was slowly watching those dwindle, and I had to figure out what my next step was. I was working a lot in meditation and yoga and raw food and kind of that field of alternatives, and making a good profit in that takes a very specific type of person. And I was not pulling it in. So when I decided to make that slip, I needed an option. I needed one quickly, and I needed something that would generate me funds right away. So I was in a pretty bit of a challenging situation, actually.
All right. Did you have a specific financial goal at that time?
My first financial goal is to make $100,000 in a year. And so we've made that goal, and now we're going for more.
Great. And do you want to share, and you don't have to, but do you want to share your specific financial goal that you have now?
Yes. So my specific financial goal now is just to repeat a consistent $200,000 a year as far as real estate investment, and not including my other ventures. So just having it come in on cash flow alone, with property managers doing a large chunk of the work. That's where we're headed.
Fantastic. And what is your ultimate dream?
Oh my goodness. I did retire already. So I find that when you get to the point where you have a lot of time on your hands, you start to realize that there's more than just hanging out on the beach in a tropical country. There's actually a lot more. And so my dream is doing what I'm doing now, is giving back to people, encouraging them to take the next step through things that are challenging, and just watching other people grow. I am literally living my dream right now.
That's fantastic. Not that many people can say that. So good for you. In what ways were you initially hoping real estate investing would change your life?
I was hoping it would create a retirement fund for me. That was one of my biggest concerns. I grew up with my father was an employee, but he did invest in stocks, and he did have a position on how one should create their retirement fund, kind of how most people were trained during that time, which was, compounding interest and making sure that you start when you're 20 years old. And I did not do that. And I got to be in my 30s, and I thought, oh my God, I've lost the first 10 years of compounding interest. What am I going to do? So I just really decided that I needed to go a route that was going to solve that problem. And it had to be creative, and it had to be different than the traditional form of, work for 50 years in your job and then hope your retirement covers you.
So where did you get stuck? I know you started in single family. Why weren't you able to get started on your own? Why did you seek help from Lance Edwards?
I wouldn't say that I wasn't able to get started on my own. I actually had started in single family for a time, but I wanted to grow and I wanted to grow faster than I could on my own. So I'd say that Lance provided me with an opportunity to just get the upswing. Like, you can do so much on your own, and then you actually you need to have a mentor in the industry. You need to have someone who prevents you from those stumbling blocks. And I saw a lot of people making them. I saw a lot of people who didn't know how to analyze deals, doing the same investing programs I was doing, who lost their retirement because they made bad investments. It was dreadful. It was horrible to watch. And I wouldn't participate in the deals they were trying to do because I knew that they were bad. And I would tell them, these are bad deals, don't do them. So I saw a lot of people take a fall. And I want to prevent that for others. And I definitely wanted to prevent it for myself. So I now have the opportunity to help people not make those same mistakes by getting into investments that are going to really trash their retirement instead of grow it.
What obstacles did you face when getting started?
Confidence. Oh my goodness. I was living in tent. I had no real estate experience. I had very little funds to my name. I didn't feel like anyone would take me seriously. I was terrified beyond belief to call brokers because I thought they'd see right through me and they'd say, "Are you reading a script?" And I wouldn't know what to say. So I went through the terror that a lot of people do when they're going from, working for someone else and not having to step out on their own. I mean, I've done some of that, but I was conservative in my doing of it. So now here I'm making these cold calls. I'm calling all of these brokers. They all going to think I'm a fraud. I'm trying to tell these people I can borrow $750,000 to do this flip and I know what I'm talking about. And I actually pulled it off. I don't know how, but I was terrified the entire time. And I relied a great deal on my mentors and other investors for encouragement because I didn't feel like I could do it. I didn't feel like if I did do it, that I would be successful at it. So I had mounting fear after fear, basically. It was huge in the first year of investing.
And how did you combat that fear?
Oh, I just did it. I just kept doing it. And when all of the people around me told me that it was a really bad idea and I should get a job, and what am I thinking? What am I doing? How long are you going to stay at this until you make money? Or reasonable money? I just said as long as it takes. And I really felt a little bit like I really jumped in. I didn't have another job supporting me at the time. So, most people, they start in the industry and they build their way towards replacing their job, which I highly recommend. I just jumped in with nothing to support me and I had to make it work because my back was against the wall and I didn't have another option. I mean, I invested what I had in this program and in the other programs that I took, and I was at the end of my options. So I made it work.
And why did you stick with it when you faced those hurdles? Obviously, part of it was your back was up against the wall. Was there any other, driving force that had you?
Yeah. I'm a little out to lunch when it comes with my goals. I'm kind of like a hound dog on a bone. I didn't want to go back to working for someone else and making them money. I wanted to make myself money. And so I did that. And I wanted to create myself a lifestyle where I could have a family and I could spend time with my family and not spend 80 hours a week working in a corporation or in a professional position. I could have taken one of those positions and I never had the desire. I just never had the desire. I always wanted my time to be my own. And so I have kept that, even though sometimes in the beginning you work 70 or 90 hours a week, making your business work, it's on your own time. You choose your holidays, you choose your time off or not, and it's up to you. And I think that kept me going because I wasn't willing to give it up.
Perfect. How has real estate investing impacted other areas of your life outside of like the financial?
It's impacted every area of my life. I mean, it has actually guided me towards, my second chosen career, which is coaching. I love coaching. I love working with people. And particularly, I love that Lance's program is so focused on mindset, that it's really about how to overcome those internal barriers, because it certainly was for me. And so that is something that's just made me feel like I have something to give back. And I was always looking for that. I always had that kind of empty feeling of, am I doing enough for my community? Am I giving enough of myself? And I never felt like the answer was yes. And now I don't have any doubt that I'm doing benefit for people. I'm helping people out of holes with their retirements. I'm like, I feel full of life in the position of being able to be a mentor. And I yeah, that's the biggest piece for me. I feel so incredibly fulfilled with that. And I feel now that I want everyone to have that opportunity to say, yes, I am giving enough. My job is not draining the lifeblood out of me. In fact, it's building my bank account. This is what I want for everyone, is that opportunity to feel I have freedom of time. I have funds that are coming in all the time, supporting me where I want to go. I have enough funds to help with family and family of family, the generational wealth that people are looking to create. It's like, when you start getting into that position, things are going well. Things are, you're taken care of. Now you're looking at taking care of others. I mean, there's nothing more gratifying than being in that position.
So how has your current financial situation changed from the tent?
0 to 100%. I mean, there's no further position, other than being homeless, that you could possibly go down to, really, at that point. I mean, it was a choice. I was, doing my off-grid living in my own version that I wanted to do it. That was not foisted upon me, but I decided that I wanted to do it in a much more glorious situation with the comforts of home, and to have the freedom to travel and the freedom to do these other things. So in that time, I didn't have that. I was really in one position looking to build myself out of the hole I created, so it is 100% changed because, and it's changed me, because when you have a bank account that's starting to work for you, your confidence does change. And you have to fake it till you make it. You don't have that confidence in the beginning for sure. But as you start to build, your confidence builds. And as that, and it's kind of this positive feedback loop eventually, where you get to a position where things don't bother you. What people say don't bother you. You just, you're in a position where it doesn't matter what other people think about how you do your lifestyle. And it did bother me a lot in the beginning, what people thought, what advice people gave me about what I was doing, how crazy they all thought I was going after this unconquerable goal, and I just, I felt it. I didn't tell them that I felt it, but I did, so I had to get to a point where now that just kind of washes off of me. And so that's what this whole thing has done for me, is just, I'm following what I want to do, regardless of what anybody else thinks. And now in a position that a lot of people envy, because I was willing to go and go and go and go until it actually just worked.
So what did you hope would happen that hasn't?
I can't think of a thing. Let me think about that. I mean, I've traveled internationally. I spent a year in Bali doing my coaching at 2 a.m. I mean, I've just done everything that I wanted to do. And now I'm just in a position of that give back. So I can't think of anything that I wanted to happen that has not yet happened. I'm in a position of just gratitude every day.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What has happened that surprised you?
I would say my growth as far as a person when it comes to managing others. I would say I was not skilled or mature when I started managing my managers. And if they would make mistakes, I'd be very upset with them. And I was not a people person, actually. So I learned that people make mistakes. I learned to have more flexibility with people, and I was not expecting that to be an outcome. And I'm so grateful, because I was dreadful to work for in the beginning. I was a hard ass. It was a really difficult position for my managers to be in, because they had to do everything exactly the way I wanted it. And I still feel that way, but I have flexibility in supporting them to get where I need them to go, instead of expecting them to already know that. So that is a really big shift of character, which I'm very grateful for, just in the years of working with people and realizing, yeah, you're in a position of power. It doesn't mean that you can abuse that and expect people to understand the level at which you want them to operate without training them.
Okay, perfect. What excites you the most about the future and the possibilities it holds?
Well, I just see a continual expansion from here. So I feel like what excites me the most is the more I work with one-on-one, the more I work with groups of people, the more I have an opportunity to influence more people. So the concept of influencing greater numbers, getting people to really step up and really be even more effective in drilling through their barriers. I'm getting some tools that work really well with that, and that's exciting. And I would say just feeling an even greater sense of financial freedom. So as I said, once you take care of yourself and you start working on that generational wealth, then it's really about, taking care of your family down the line. And I see that expanding as a possibility. I see charity expanding as a possibility. And I already run my businesses that way anyway. I'm working with C-class properties, with veterans and programs that need safe, clean places to be. And we're providing a better quality of that than generally people do. And this is following suit with Lance's program of what he's trying to do to get other people to provide these quality C-class apartments. And we're cleaning up the mess, and we're cleaning up the drug use, and we're cleaning up, so we're now making impact within our community, and we're training other people to do that. So it could be a nationwide shift in how people do investment and how apartments are run. And I'm very excited to be part of that team.
Fantastic. What strengths do you possess that maybe made this endeavor easier for you when you started?
Tenaciousness. I really, I wouldn't quit. I wouldn't quit when most people would. And I think that's the difference. I also, I don't know if it was a strength, but I had myself really convinced about a certain lifestyle I wanted, to be in control of my time. And I wasn't willing to sacrifice it. So I was basically stubborn. And I had the ability to endure.
Do you think you had any personal characteristics that worked against you in the beginning?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that perfectionism streak, that controlling, like everything needs to be perfect streak, that is not helpful when you're working with other people. It's not helpful when you're working with yourself. It's not a nice way to treat yourself. So I think that I grew out of that hugely in learning how to have a lot more fun and be a lot more relaxed in my approach to business.
What would you say has changed about who you are since you started down this path? Like, in what ways do you think it's made you a different person?
I would say my initial goals were to dig myself out of my financial hole. So most people have a very pressing financial goal when they start. And I did too. That was all I could see, just like the blinders of get myself in a position of better well-being. And once you get yourself into a position of better well-being, other goals open up. So I'd say that kind of focus on that self-focus has really shifted to community focus and the desire to be a support to others. And I like myself more when I'm focused on both my well-being and the well-being of my community instead of just one over the other.
Did you discover anything about yourself that surprised you?
I did. I realized how rigid I was. I didn't realize how terrible I was at managing people until I started trying. So when I think managing people, I'm talking managing your managers, because that's what you got to do. You got to manage your managers. And in Hawaii, investing in the Midwest, I've got to manage them from a distance. So it's not easy. And I found that I had a lot of anger and frustration in dealing with people that, as I said, were not managing up to the standard I wanted them to. And I didn't know how to get them from A to B. I didn't know how to get them there. So I had to learn how to educate and support people to grow instead of just demanding that they do it. And that was a huge surprise. I didn't really realize that I was that kind of person. And I didn't like seeing that part of myself come out, that frustration and the anger. So I learned how to be more compassionate. And I thought I already was. So I learned how to be more compassionate in business. And that was huge.
Do you, obviously the challenges that you faced when you started, you've eliminated. Do you see any challenges that exist for you now that you're working through overcoming?
I don't see them as challenges. I see everything that's coming up as an opportunity. So that's one of the things I think that changed about me from the beginning, is that everything's a challenge. Everything's scary. Everything's a challenge. How are you going to overcome it? But my mindset has changed a lot, because now I look at things that come up that might be a challenge. I just say, this is an opportunity for growth. And I look at it and I actually lean into it. I look forward to embracing it. I figure out how it's going to make me grow, and I grow with it. So I don't see like I have challenges now. It's not a way I think.
Okay. I want you to imagine yourself 5 years from now. How has your life changed?
It has not changed a lot. I am growing family, so that's something that's going to be very different. But I am still living in Hawaii, right where I live, in exactly the same place with this beautiful view of the mountain and this tropical breeze. And I mean, I can't think of anything really better than that. So my life involves traveling between here and seeing my nieces and nephews in Canada and getting family together and more of that, I'd say. But other than that, it's not a lot of change. It's just doing more of what I love.
Okay, last question. And you've already provided some, but what advice do you have to offer to others?
Don't give up. And know that every barrier and challenge that you're encountering is not what it seems to be. A lot of times the barriers that we throw up come from our own traumas, our own experiences, or our own fears that are coming inside us, making it seem like an insurmountable obstacle. When it feels that way, sometimes it helps to take a minute to adjust that internal emotional situation, to address that, and then getting that out of the way, face the challenge, which is now probably a tenth of what we thought it was, because 90% of our stuff is from the past. And so doing that work and understanding that that is the key to mindset, really, right? The persistence, the consistency, and the not giving up, as well as recognizing that these things that look so big are really not as big as they seem.
Great. Well, Lance Edwards, this is Kristen Crabtree. Please join us again when we interview our next department champion. If you'd like to learn how you could be our next department champion, please call our office at 281-667-3638. You're only one deal away.